We'll just wait a moment to get people in. Good afternoon. We'll start in 30 seconds, just letting people pop on. Some are still joining us, but we will get started. So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for a session on the future in the skilled trades with Skills Ontario. I am Jennifer Wood, and I am the co-op and tech consultant at the Ottawa Catholic School Board. I will be your moderator this afternoon. A couple of quick reminders before we start the session. If you have questions throughout, you can put them in the Q&A. We may stop throughout to try and answer some. However, we will also try and address more at the end of the presentation. So just put them in the chat in the Q&A and we will get to them as soon as we can. Also, just a disclaimer so that you know, we do need you to refrain from saying or putting in anything that's inappropriate. If you do put in anything in the chat that should be removed, it will be without warning, and you will also be removed from the event for today. Having said that, we are very excited to welcome Shelley O'Rourke with us, and I am pleased to introduce you to her this afternoon. She is the program facilitator with Skills Ontario. At Skills Ontario, they promote careers in the skilled trades and technology. And today, Shelley will be covering things like what are the skilled trades, why are they important, and why are they in demand, as well as how to become a tradesperson, including the apprenticeship pathway. So we welcome you, Shelley, and thank you so much for leading us this afternoon.
Thank you so much for such a warm welcome. Good afternoon, everyone. Yes, my name is Shelley. And Skills Ontario, you may not have heard of us before, but what we do, we promote jobs in skilled trades and technologies. The reason we do this, there's a lot of gaps. I don't know if you follow, there's a housing shortage. There's a lot of things within the skilled trades where we do not have enough skilled tradespeople. So there is a demand right now, but often people don't consider these careers. Now, most people, when you ask what the skilled trades are, they can maybe name two or three. The most common, plumber, carpenter, electrician. But there's so much more than that. Definition of the skilled trades is they're hands-on careers that require specialized training and education. Now, that's really important. That specialized training and education is called apprenticeship. Again, it's just another modality of education within our education system, right? College, university, apprenticeship. It's a very hands-on way of learning, which makes sense because it's hands-on careers. So again, the learning is a little bit different, and that's really what sets the skilled trades apart. The skilled trade professionals provide us with essential services, and I really highlight that word essential. We can't live our lives without the skilled trades, not the way we do. Without the skilled trades, we have no electricity, we don't have homes, we don't have cars, there's no factories to make things. It is a very different life. And it is something that we will always need. Our need for the skilled trades will remain the same, even as technology changes. So what do they have in common? So there's four things we say the skilled trades have in common. First, they're hands-on, and you can see through the examples on the screen, whether it's carpentry, masonry, baking, horticulture, hairstyling, automotive painting, using your hands. So there's a really benefit to that, right? It can be very fulfilling to use your hands at work. Second, skilled trades are technical. And that's a big word. All I mean by that is they use math and science. Sometimes it's really obvious the math and science that you see in the skilled trades. I always use electrician as an example. You need to understand the science of power, right? Currents, volts, amps, all of that scientific understanding required to be an electrician. However, sometimes it's a little bit harder to see. I can see a couple of examples on the screen. The first one is baking. People often, they don't think when they're ready to bake, I'm going to do a science experiment, but that's what it is. Baking is reactions. Reactions is chemistry. So you are using science, even though you don't think of it that way, the science is still there. You're using math by doing fractions, measurements, conversions, temperatures. There's a lot of math and science, even in some of the trades that we don't realize. The other one that people forget is hairstylists. Yes, they need to understand lengths but the real math and science for them is again the chemistry. They don't buy hair color from the grocery store or the drugstore. They need to mix it themselves. They need to understand how hair works, how the color works, how to change the color. So there is math and science throughout, but it varies. So if math and science isn't your strength, don't worry. There's lots of different variations in the skilled trade. The third thing the skilled trades are is practical. So I like to give myself as an example because I did not make the practical choice when I was in high school. My last year of high school, I had an elective to choose. It was a real elective. I had all the courses I needed. I had enough math, enough Englishes. I literally needed any credit. But I was on a university path. I was taking all university level courses. So I thought I needed to continue taking university level courses. So you guys are allowed to laugh at this. One that I chose for my super easy elective, advanced calculus. Not my finest moment. Don't get me wrong, calculus is important. If you're going into engineering, into some of the sciences, yes, calculus. But for me, the only reason I took it was because I thought I needed to. The course that I wish I took that was available at my high school would have gotten me the exact same credit as that calculus course, automotive. I could have taken an automotive class. If I learned basics like how to change your own tires, how to change the oil in my car, do you know how much money I could have saved over the last 20 years? And I'm chuckling because it's literally thousands of dollars by taking that one course. And unfortunately, calculus hasn't done a whole lot in my everyday life. So using these courses as you're planning your next couple of years in high school, looking at what courses are available, challenging yourself to think outside of your comfort level, your kind of your box, to try something that's a little bit different. And the last thing the skilled trades have in common is another fun one, the creativity. And you can see there's some fun masonry, hair color, cake decorating, landscaping, painting, chocolate sculptures at the top. There's lots of creativity. And that's really important. And it's not just visually creative. There's a lot of creative problem solving in the trades as well, which is really very important. And being able to kind of use, I hate to use the cliche, but think outside the box, think a little bit differently is really valuable in the skilled trades. So we said hands-on, technical, and creative. We divide the skilled trades into 4 sectors. The easiest one to understand is the first, and that's construction. The reason it's so easy to understand is because we see it in our everyday lives. We drive by construction sites. We see new homes being built, road constructions, all of that. It is big. I'm here in Ottawa, and I know there's also some students here from Toronto, but there's a lot of construction in Ottawa that I talk about all the time. We have the Parliament Hill reconstruction. We have a new hospital being built, a new public library, a new high school, the road work, the housing work, the apartment buildings. Construction is huge right now. And we're seeing on top of that, there's even some new projects that we're looking at. I don't know if you have any Ottawa Senators fans on the call, but the Ottawa Senators are talking about moving downtown again, moving to LeBreton Flats. Again, that would be another multi-million, multi-year project in construction. So there's a lot of work right now, particularly in the construction sector. Next, also terribly important, but we don't see it as much. That's industrial. That's all about mass production, so manufacturing, so how things are made. Yeah, my favorite show when I'm talking about industrial is literally the show How It's Made. I totally recommend watching that. It shows you how different machines work in factories to make all sorts of products, from water bottles to books to granola bars, right? There's all sorts of, so that's that, but that often happens kind of behind the scenes in factories. And there are some areas in Ontario where there's a large amount of industrial. I think Windsor, Ontario would be a high one. Ottawa, even Belleville, sorry, has a number of plants. So again, where there's a lot of factories, manufacturing plants, that's where you see a high level of industrial. Motive power is important across the province. That's our vehicles. We need our vehicles for everything. right? That is how we get food in our grocery stores. That is how we travel to work. There's so much because we are such a large country. Last but certainly not least is our service sector. That's where we find our chefs, our hairstylists, our bakers. Usually in the service sector, you're the type of person who likes working with other people. Again, that's not a requirement. That's just usually something they have in common. Not everyone, that's not everyone's thing, and that's okay. So, a little bit of a pop quiz. I'll give you guys a couple of seconds to think. How many skilled trades are there in Ontario? Your options are A, 79, B, 124, C, 144, and D, 52. The correct answer is actually 144. I tried to do a little bit of a trick there to get people to not guess out, but that's a lot of jobs. That's a lot of variety. Here you can have a look. There they are. Now, I won't be staying on this slide for long. I know there's a lot of information to see, but if you go back to I do have a booth in the hall of the Launch Career Fair, and this information is all accessible through there, so you can get any of the handouts from there. But it just shows you how much variety there is in the skilled trades. I can almost guarantee you there's something that's interesting to you. Maybe it's a hobby, maybe it's a career, but there is a lot of variety there. So with that said, now we're going to look at each sector and a couple of job profiles each sector. So construction, the way I've organized it, the familiar jobs over here to your left, plumber, carpenter, electrician, and as we head further to the right, maybe jobs that you're a little bit less familiar with. We're going to look at a couple. One of my favorites to look at right now that people don't think of is crane operator. We are trying to build much taller buildings, right? We don't want to increase the size of our cities. We don't want to spread out. We want to create a dense population, which requires more apartment buildings, taller buildings. So we're seeing a lot of cranes, the tower cranes. Those are the ones in the middle picture there. There's also mobile cranes. Those are the ones that are movable. But right now, tower cranes there's a very high demand. So you can see on these slides, you can see crane operator is a 3-year apprenticeship that usually takes about 6,000 hours, and what they do. Now, when it comes to salary, it's hard to, again, there's different levels of crane operators, but the level 1 crane operators, that's the tower crane operators, make a lot of money. I know a tower crane operator, and he makes over $200,000 a year. And he has no university degree. He has a 3-year apprenticeship. So again, there are some very high paying jobs within the skilled trades that don't require, and that's one of the things that makes the skilled trades unique. Now we're going to watch a short video. Stefan is our crane operator. He's going to tell you a little bit about what he does, options of how you can make money. And so let's have a listen to what Stefan has to say.
My name is Stefan and I am a tower crane operator. A tower crane operator is someone who is responsible for maintenance and operation of the tower crane. A tower crane is responsible for moving material throughout the job site, such as steel, concrete, lumber, and wall forms. Without a tower crane, the construction process won't be as efficient. A tower crane is able to move heavy equipment throughout the job site with ease. What I like about being a tower crane operator is the fact that I'm able to be involved in the construction process of a high-rise building, and the fact that I'm able to put precision and my abilities to use. I started as a heavy equipment operator out of high school and then transitioned over to a tower crane apprenticeship, where then I learned how to run a tower crane through an experienced operator. On a typical day, I start off by climbing the tower crane and performing a daily maintenance. I then enter the cab and start up the crane. I receive instructions through two-way radio and carry them out. Salary expectations for someone starting out would be around $40,000 to $60,000 per year. Halfway through your apprenticeship, you're looking between $80,000 to $100,000 per year, and completion of your apprenticeship, you're looking around $100,000 to $140,000 per year. Some tips for succeeding as a tower crane operator would be: listen to your mentors, be consistent, and remember, practice makes perfect.
So yeah, that's something we don't usually think about, but it's a really important job. Where I live in Ottawa, there's actually an apartment building being built right behind me. So I've been able to watch the tower crane. It has been fascinating seeing all the different things that they do. We're going to have a look at one more here. I'm going to go with stonemason. That one's a really big one. And that one I like to bring up because of the Parliament Hill project. One of the things that they're doing with Parliament Hill is they are trying to restore as much of the original brickwork, stonework, marble work as possible. But right now, we cannot get enough stonemasons because they do restoration masonry as well. So again, this one is a 3-year apprenticeship. So the shortest apprenticeship usually is about 2 years. The longest is 5, and it depends on how technical the trade is. So there's different types of masonry. There's the restoration masonry. You can do specialty masonry, things like fireplaces, right? Very creative and almost artistic things. You can lay bricks. There's a lot of variety. And we're going to watch a short video on this one too. Celeste is our mason here. It's funny. She actually didn't realize what she was getting into. She thought she was starting more with interlock. So she has a bit of a funny story about how she gets started. So let's have a look.
The reason that I chose a career in the trades is because after high school, I had to financially support myself, so the idea of taking on a large sum of debt didn't seem like an option for me. I jumped from job to job and landed a position as a hardscape laborer, and I realized there was a whole industry of job opportunities that I had not yet explored. And so the reason that I like the trades is all you need is your high school to get into it. It's a low starting cost, and the benefits start right away. I honestly discovered bricklaying by accident. While we were doing hardscape, we did a lot of interlock, and I thought bricklaying and interlock were the same thing. So I got an apprenticeship doing brick and stone masonry, and then on the first day, I realized they're completely different. So the reason I like bricklaying is because the fundamentals of it is simple, but you can be very creative with it. The response from my friends and family was mixed. A lot of them are already in the trade, but their only hesitancy would be if I'm physically able to take it and if it's going to take a toll on my body in the long run, but so far that hasn't been the case. I started off in residential new builds, and I was put between 2 bricklayers learning how to lay fast to the line. Next I went to commercial restoration, which was a lot of patchwork. I learned how to do demolition and how to use power tools. And now I'm at heritage restoration, and it's by far my favorite. I'm learning a lot about the history of bricks, not only from my mentors, but from the wall itself. Restoration is taking something old and making it look new without changing the heritage. There's a couple of steps in restoration. The first one is matching, then is demolition, rebuild, cleaning, and finishing. Since majority of the homes that we work on are over 100 years old, we like to take the time to appropriately match things like the texture, the color, the size, how it fits into the wall, so that we're not changing it, we're just fixing it. When I complete a restoration, it's a representation of all the hard work and care that I put into it, so it makes me feel proud. Masonry has taken me to a place where I really enjoy the work that I'm doing. I love the people I'm working with, and I'm learning something new every day. What I hope to do in the future is have my own women's masonry company where I can teach women the craft, but also introduce girls into the trade. My advice for any woman who's thinking about entering the trades but is unsure is put that uncertainty into perspective. It's like any other job. If you don't like it, you don't have to commit to it, but if you do, amazing, you're in the trades.
Yeah, Celeste thought she was going to be doing interlock and got an apprenticeship and realized it was a little bit different. But yeah, there's only about, of all the people in skilled trades, only about 4% are women. So we're really working on encouraging young women going into the trades, and we're seeing that happening through other tradespeople as well. Now let's have a look at industrial. Industrial, again, some of these jobs may not look as familiar, especially if you don't have as many factories or machine shops in your city. But our welder, our locksmith fits here. Things like millwright, which is our doctors of machines, control technicians, process operators. All these people work and manage all the different things that are happening in a factory. And that this is how things kind of get to our grocery stores, our construction sites, wherever they need to go. There's always an obvious fan favorite in industrial, and that's welder. Welding is actually very cool. There's a couple of different ways you can become a welder. You can do it like a 1-year metal fabrication program at Algonquin College, and that will get you some basic welding jobs, usually on the lower end of the salary. But if you have the apprenticeship, if you've done the 6,000 hours and the education, if you have a welding ticket, you can go anywhere. Welders are needed all over the world, all over the country, and that's one of the ones. There's such a wide variety of different things that welders work on, right? There are welders who are climbing high and working in different pieces of equipment. There are welders who are underground working in mines. There are welders who are underwater working in our technology and our oil rigs. So again, welding is a really big one. And a lot of people, that's the one they say, if you can get any ticket, get a welding ticket, because it's one of the most versatile ones. And if travel is something you're interested in doing as part of your career, having something like a welding ticket or something that is good across the world can be really, really helpful. Now we're going to have a listen to Tiffany. Tiffany has a funny story about how she got into it too. She had no idea she was going to end up working in manufacturing and welding. So let's have a look.
When I first was introduced to welding, I was in high school. I switched schools, and the new school didn't have one of the courses that I was signed up to do. And so in that time slot, I could do either welding or parenting. And I didn't want the robot baby to take home, so I did welding. And I ended up getting top of my class in that year. And from that point forward, I stuck with the shop classes. In my second or third year of shop classes, it was like, no, this is a real career. No, there's a real need for it. Like, you're good with it. And went to college for mechanical engineering technician. I continued my education, and I actually technically have an ordinary bachelor's degree in mechanical and manufacturing engineering. You have to walk in the room like you belong there, because there's people looking at you like you don't belong. And skills was super critical in helping me build that confidence to be like, you know what? I can do this. I am here and I will do it. My title when I was hired was machine shop assistant. So I've kind of worked almost everywhere, and so right now I'm doing the metal fabrication and welding, and I'm working with torches and bending metal and cutting. And the skills industry is a community, and they're real people. And not just that, but like all the skills are transferable. If a machine breaks down, you know how to fix it. If your car breaks down, sure, you're not a mechanic, but you understand the concept of what a machine is and how it works. It's just empowering, at least for me anyways. The most rewarding part really just comes right down to tangible results, being able to look at the project that you've completed at the end of the day or at the end of the week and say, I did that. It's not just a mental empowerment, it literally empowers you to be able to do more. Whether you say you can or you can't, you're right. If you don't want to do something, that's totally okay. But if there's like a part of you that is super curious, why not? Like, you can do it if you really want to do that. And so just do it.
I really like Tiff. I've actually met her. She is still involved in the Skills Ontario competition. And yeah, I love that story. She switched schools, didn't have the class she wanted, so she had two options, parenting or welding. Parenting involved a robot baby, and she said no. And I don't blame her. They can be, so see, again, and she went to this class knowing nothing about welding, and she came out top of her class. That's why I say challenge yourself to take those courses, those programs outside of your comfort zone, because you might have a talent, a skill that you don't realize you have. And until you try some of this stuff, you just won't know. Now we're into motive power. This one's going to be fascinating. We're going to be seeing some really big changes in the next decade in motive power, right? We're starting to transition to electric vehicles is going to be a big one. The story I like to tell here is my nephew. The technology has really changed in cars. My nephew is 5 years old, and he's just figured out how my car works, and he loves it because it's a base model car. My car has very little technology in it. It has manual windows. That's his favorite thing in the world. He's 5 years old. He loves manual windows. So he has just recently discovered that my Aunt Shelley's car is so much cooler because it doesn't have a button for windows. He can actually roll it down. So again, that just shows you my car is one of the very few left that has things like that. But there is a lot more technology kind of throughout our cars, not just in the engine components, but throughout the entire vehicle as well. I have one here that I like to show, and that is our auto body repair. But you can see there's a lot of different types, whether it's motorcycles, agricultural equipment, which is farming, heavy equipment. There's a lot of different types of vehicles you can work on. The one we're going to have a look at is auto body repair. This one is actually really fun. especially if you like kind of melding things and hitting things and breaking things. And because there's a lot, you have to move and mend the steel. So if you have, it's a great way to get your anger out sometimes. So I could try and describe this one, but our video here, Curtis, he does such a good job. So I'll let him tell you how much he loves it.
You want to come to work. I might not always want to get out of bed in the morning, but I always want to be here. Within a week of picking up the sanding block and the spreader, it just sunk in. You know what, it's awesome. It's almost like an adrenaline rush. It's just, you can't beat the feeling you get when a job's finished and it's done and everything's done right. You take pride in all of your work, not just in the work that matters. Your R&Is to your frame repair, to your frame analysis, to welding in new rocker panels, welding in new quarter panels, doing floor pans, roof skins. It's a passion thing. You gotta get creative. You gotta figure out ways to manipulate the steel to do what you need it to do. I can afford to be putting gas in the sled, and I can pay for my entire vehicle. I'm 17 years old, and I'm almost finished my level 2 training. I'm gonna be red sealed before I'm 20. This is something cool. This is something I can see myself doing for the rest of my life and never getting bored. My name is Curtis Gordy, and I'm an automotive repair technician.
You can just feel his passion through the screen, right? Curtis clearly, and he's only 17, and he's saying, I can see myself doing this for the rest of my life. That's amazing. Now, there may be something you say, well, he's only 17. How is he doing his apprenticeship? That's an excellent question. He's actually still getting his high school diploma and starting his apprenticeship at the same time. He's using what we call it in Ontario, it's called the OYAP program, which is part of co-op. And we'll talk about that a little bit later on, but you can just learn. So Curtis, what he's done, he got his basic credits in high school, right? His English, his math. And then he did a number of credits through co-op. So we could use those hours. So always talk to your co-op teacher if that's something that sounds like you'd be interested in as well. Now, certainly last but not least is our service sector. This one sometimes don't seem to jive as well together. It seems a bit more mishmash. It is the customer service, right? Your hairstylist, your chef, your baker fits in here. Also things like gem setter, which is custom-made jewelry, saddleries, custom saddles, dairy herds person, farm work. There's a lot of different ones here that we don't realize. So this is one, again, the demand for this one, right now, the highest demand is construction and industrial, but we're starting to see that demand coming through the service sector as well. But there's also, we can't forget about technology, right? We've kind of adopted technology as part of the skilled trades because they're so intertwined now. We're seeing a lot of robotics and automation. There are tools that are coming into the trades that make the skilled trades person's life easier, right? Think of when we invented things in the auto shop where they could just all of a sudden raise the car up. People all of a sudden didn't have to bend down, they didn't have to hurt their backs. We could use hydraulics to lift the car up. That was a huge transition. So we see a lot of technology, and those who are strong in technology will also usually do very well in the skilled trade. So why? Why should you consider a career? 4 reasons. Essential and in demand, we kind of touched on those, right? We know that we need them, there's a shortage. When your job's in demand, it usually means higher salaries. So there's a lot of benefit to that. They're also rewarding. Working with your hands is rewarding. And one of the things that you hear consistently through those videos, that sense of accomplishment that they feel, that they can physically see something that they have completed at the end of the day, at the end of the week. So that can be very rewarding as well. And lastly, but not least, is safety. Now that sometimes raises eyebrows because safety is something you don't think of. It's really, really important, particularly in the skilled trades. There's an organization in Ontario called the WSIB that ensures that you have 3 very important rights when you're working. It means you have the right to know what hazards exist in your workplace. You have the right to participate in the health and safety process. You have the right to refuse unsafe work. So that's really important. And you need to remember those because they are there designed to keep you safe on the job. All right. Now, the last big thing we're going to talk about is becoming a tradesperson because it's a little bit different. So when you finish high school, there's usually 4 pathways, one of 4 pathways you're going to choose. There's more in-class learning, your more traditional academic learning over to the left. And as you go more right, it becomes hands-on. Please note, this is not a hierarchy. This is a spectrum. There's not one that's better than the other. They're just different. So the most traditional, the most academic, university, right? We all know university. Teachers go to university, doctors go to university. Very important part of our education system. It's an investment, right? It's usually 4 to 6 years. Usually you're looking at about $10,000 a year. Moving a little more hands-on, now we're into college. Tuition is usually about $3,000 for some tuition. Those programs usually run about 2 to 3 years on average. Now apprenticeships, that's where we're going to focus. Apprenticeships, you only spend about 1 to 2 months per year in school. So your tuition is minimal, maybe $1,000 a year. The last one is workplace training. That's where you go straight into work without any training or education or plans of education. So we're going to refocus on college and apprenticeship in the trades. So what is an apprenticeship? It's very different because you don't go apply to school. The first thing you do is you find a job. So if you wanted to become a plumber, you would reach out to maybe the local plumbers union or different plumbers you know locally and find out who's hiring apprentices. Once you get hired, you register with the province, and that starts your apprenticeship. 90% of your training is done on the job, only 10% in class. Now, one of the biggest benefits that I think of the apprenticeship that a lot of people don't realize, the part of training that's on the job is paid. So you're paid like an hourly rate. So you are paid for 90% of your training. And then the 10% of training that's done in the classroom, like I said, that's usually costs about $1,000 in tuition per year. So it's a little bit different as opposed to college or university, which has a very large upfront starting cost. Some programs do have an exam at the end, which gets you your COQ, your certificate of qualifications. And then at the end of that, you become journey person. So the term journey person just means certified tradesperson. So somebody who has completed the apprenticeship. I like to think of them as your coach, which is kind of why I use a race metaphor here. So at the starting line, you find your journey person, your coach, and you register. First thing you do is you go right to work. You're going to shadow your journey person, work with your journey person for about 10 to 12 months. And then you take a break for an in-class portion. Like I said, usually 1 to 2 months. Then you repeat that for however long the apprenticeship is. So that one on the screen is a 4-year apprenticeship. Then once you're done, there may be an exam. Once you're done that, then you start working as a journey person. Once you're the journey person, it's really great because you can start training the next generation because you can start training apprentices underneath you. So again, very much passing it forward when it comes to the knowledge. Now, I know we're getting to the end of the presentation. We're getting antsy. This is probably the most exciting slide in the entire presentation. It takes a second to explain. So this is actually an example of what you can make as an apprentice. This is just one example. Some are paid more, some are paid less. This is just to kind of give you an idea. The example I chose was plumber. The reason I chose plumber is because it is a unionized trade, which means all of their salary and apprentice information is online, really easy for me to find. So here's how a plumber. So a plumber apprenticeship is one of the longer ones. It is 9,000 hours, which usually takes about 5 years. So you land yourself an apprenticeship with a certified journey person plumber. You're going to go to work. You don't start minimum wage. No, you start at $20 an hour. You work at that rate for, like I said, about a year. Then you take a break where you do a month or two of in class. Now you're getting ready to go back to work, but now you have more knowledge, more training, more education. So in year 2, you're also paid more. You're making $25 an hour. Again, you work at that rate for a year, some courses at the end, repeat. And then that goes on for 5 years. So again, you're not making minimum wage throughout your apprenticeship. You're making real money, substantial money. And by the time you're done your apprenticeship, you are making top dollar. So when you finish your 5-year apprenticeship, so that's 9,000 hours of experience, as well as whatever in-course portion you have to do, you pass your exam, you're a journey person. Your starting salary, $46 an hour. That's your starting. It'll go up from there, But that's as soon as you finish your 5-year apprenticeship, that is your starting salary. Now think about this. Usually you graduate high school at 18. So that would be 18 in year one. So 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23 years old, making $46 an hour. That's $97,000 a year. 23 years old. And think about what kind of student debt do you think you would have? Probably nothing, right? Very minimal tuition, and you're getting paid throughout. So again, that is what makes the apprenticeship so amazing. University is great, and I would never disparage university, but it's an investment, right? It's an investment in time, and it's an investment in money. And that's fantastic, but you don't see that return on investment for a number of years, usually 4, sometimes 10 years if you're going into a PhD or medical profession. Whereas in the trades, you start earning right away. And so that return on investment is immediate. So that's one of the biggest benefits of the skilled trades, is that paid apprenticeship. And again, that's worked into a number of them. So I know that is not one exciting. Usually I get audible gasps. I don't actually, but I pretend I do. Now, I want to learn more. You say I'm in high school. This is fantastic, but what can I do now? I've said it, and I can't say it enough. Take your tech classes. Use those resources that your school has to learn some of these skills. Like I said, maybe it'll be a career, maybe it'll be a hobby, but kind of using those tools that you have. And the other one would be OYAP, right? The Ontario Youth Apprenticeship Program, which is kind of a specialty of the co-op department. So when you're hitting into grade 11, if you want to do co-op, or if you're in grade 10 and know that you already want to do a trade, talk to your co-op teachers. They are a wealth of information about local jobs and trades available in your region. So doing it through high school is such a benefit, because after high school, when you try and look for an apprenticeship, you're on your own, right? You have to do all the legwork yourself. So having the benefit of a guidance counselor and a co-op teacher behind you is a really fantastic support to have. There's also a couple other programs that the schools offer. One is dual credit, which is where you can get a college credit, the high school credit at the same time. So it kind of allows them to get ahead on their career. Or you might hear SHSM sometimes, SHSM, which is a specialist high skills major. Different schools have different SHSM, so kind of look what program is available at your school to see what might be available, because they have some really cool majors, a number of them being in the skilled trades. So that was a very high amount of information in a very short period of time. Are there any questions or comments or anything in the chat maybe I could help out with?
Thanks so much, Shelley. That was amazing. I know we only have a few minutes left, but there are some questions already in the Q&A. So one is asking, is there a university that has an automotive program in or outside of Canada, or would you take that through college?
All the automotive is done through college and apprenticeship. A majority of them, you have to do the apprenticeship. Those are called compulsory trades. Whereas there are some automotive glass technician, for example, where you don't have to. But no, those exist in colleges and trade schools, but I haven't seen any in university. Thank you.
Another question was about marketing and whether or not it would be considered a skilled trade.
I mean, the marketing itself, usually that is a university degree. There are some college programs. Marketing would be very important. People starting their own business, and that is very common in the skilled trades. So while marketing on its own isn't a skilled trade, they do require a lot of marketing, especially there's a lot of small independent businesses who need to create logos, who need to create advertisements. So there can be kind of a little bit of overlap there, even though it's not specifically a skilled trade.
Okay. Someone's asking if you can talk a little bit about the electrician trade, like either the skills and or subjects that would be helpful to take to get to be an electrician.
Electrician is a very popular one. There's a couple of different ways you can do it. It is one of the 5-year compulsory apprenticeships, which means you have to do all 5 years of the apprenticeship. But the apprenticeship can be hard to land. So sometimes people are looking for different ways. So again, taking your courses in high school, having your grade 12 math is very important, your grade 12 college math, and usually a science, sometimes physics can be beneficial as well. So that's what they look for in high school and your tech programs. Otherwise, looking at getting experience working with electricians, either through your co-op, and that one can be a competitive one to get in right now. So there's a couple of different ways you can do it. Again, starting the apprenticeship is a great way. Doing a college pre-apprenticeship program can be another way, which is like a year-long program that gets you some experience in the trades. Or there's a number of college programs that are very trades adjacent. So there's one at Algonquin College, for example, called Electrical Technologist. And that's a 3-year program. You wouldn't become an electrician officially, but you would still work very closely and do a lot of the same stuff as electrician. So there's a couple of different ways you can go about it. People either do the 2-year program and maybe transition into an apprenticeship after that, or they'll stick with the technician type of job and continue working with that. So it's a lot broader. The electrician one is very big, right? Because we're talking residential, we're talking industrial, retail. So it is a very, very vast trade. In Ontario, the IBEW, which is the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, that's the big union in Ontario. So usually, again, not exclusively through unions, but usually unions have a really great apprenticeship program. So I would start reaching out to the unions, talking to your teachers, your co-op teachers, to see if anyone has any experience or contacts in the world of electrical. Because yeah, that one can be a bit challenging to find an apprenticeship. So using some of those tools can help.
Great, thank you. Someone says, I've looked into HVAC. I'm really interested, but is interested in your view on it.
That one's going to be big for the next couple of years. There's a couple of different ones. There's the air conditioning and refrigeration, because HVAC is heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. So there's actually 2 separate jobs in there that you can do. Again, you can do the heating and ventilation of things like hospitals or factories, or you can do service and be doing individual homes. So there's a couple of ways you can do it, whether you want to do big, large projects, whether you want to do small kind of individual. But that one is very big and is going to continue to get big, right? Things like air conditioners and heaters aren't optional in our houses anymore based on our weather. So it's really, really important that we keep on top of that, as well as keep our air safe, right? Making sure that the air that's circulating is safe to breathe is another big part of HVAC. So I absolutely recommend looking into that one.
Awesome. A couple of people have asked about apprenticeship. So one is, what age can they start that? Another one is asking, how many can they do in high school? So I guess a little bit more about that.
So the age, it depends. There are some apprenticeships you can start at 16 and some you need to be 18. Again, some of the more technical ones, like the electrical, needs the older age. Also, sometimes you need a driver's license, which you wouldn't have at 16, that you would need a full driver's license to do some of the jobs as well. So 16 to 18, there are people who have multiple trades. Usually you can't do 2 apprenticeships at once, but people will do multiple across their career, right? The more specialized, the more experience you have, the more valuable you're going to be. So there's definitely, again, people will often get maybe a steam fitter and a welder, or a plumber and a pipe fitter. So again, they'll kind of, but I haven't known anyone to do 2 at the same time. I think that would just be far too much because there is so many hours involved. But yeah, so that would be the age. And then again, using your high school co-op that's the biggest piece of advice I can give your OYAP coordinator. They are just a wealth of information, and I can't speak about them enough, and how I know that you work in that area, Jennifer, and how much that they do for getting these kids and finding apprenticeships. So yeah, use the tools you have while you're in high school, because it can be a real benefit.
Thank you. I think we probably only have time for one more, although there are so many wonderful questions in here. So thank you for putting them in. Of course, you can always have your contacts at school to try and get some more information, but maybe we'll end with this one. And it's someone who's in grade 12. They're not quite sure on what pathway to go forward with yet. They are interested in the trades, but don't have experience in it. What would their next step be?
Pre-apprenticeship program. Again, I don't know if you're in Ottawa or I know Peel Board's here. For example, the Algonquin College, they offer an 8-month pre-apprenticeship program. And what that does, gives you experience in a couple of different trades. So they have different, like they might do carpentry, electrical, with the goal of you starting an apprenticeship at the end of that. Again, so it gives you some support and it gives you some experience. And based on the demand we have right now in the skilled trades, the amount of scholarships and grants that are available, usually there is very minimal of any tuition required to pay for those pre-apprenticeship programs. Again, right now the demand is just so high, they're trying to encourage as many people as possible. So have a look out for grants for things like pre-apprenticeship programs. Sometimes colleges offer different programs for certain apprenticeship, or even what's the other one I was thinking of? Pre-apprenticeship. Oh, the grants that you can get for supplies as well. There's a ton of grants. Like sometimes you need to buy equipment with your new trade, right? You might need safety boots. You might need knives if you're becoming a chef. There's a whole bunch of grants and scholarships. So I would go on. If you go to the Skills Ontario website, they have a number of different resources, which is on our booth, and explaining different grants you can apply for. But yeah, if you're not really sure, again, that 8-month apprenticeship is a really nice kind of short way to learn a lot about trades and open your eyes to a lot more.
Great. Thank you so much, Shelley. We appreciate all of your knowledge. There was a wealth of knowledge that you shared with us, and it is really fascinating to see that over 140 options in the skilled trades. So lots to explore, and we really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye, guys.
Bye.